Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
Hey everybody, this is Scott Cowan, and today my guest is Aaron Jordan, who is the, team player, head of operations, head roaster, green coffee buyer, bathroom attendant, barista, and everything for Roast House Coffee in Spokane. Welcome, Aaron.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Scott. That was a great introduction. You know, really jack of all trades, master of none.
There we go. So, Aaron, I met you. I'll tell the story of how I actually met you in person. We had gone out to First Avenue Coffee in Spokane, and we had talked with someone there, and they said, "Oh, you got to go out to the roasting plant." And I said, "Okay, cool." And so my wife and I drive out to Roast House, and honestly, this is what I said. And I think I've told you this, so it won't be a surprise. But I pulled up. I said to my wife, "I go, I don't know if this is a good idea." It just wasn't what I was expecting. You know, being in this warehouse space. And we go in, and the roasting plant's really cool. I mean, the coffee bar that you have there is amazingly great. I don't think I met you that day, but we talked at the 10th anniversary party.
Yeah.
And I asked you, do you guys partner with people? And you're like, yeah. And I said, well, who do I need to talk to? And you go, me. And it was like, oh, I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, oh, you're the guy. So I actually asked the question to the right person from the very beginning. And so we've chatted online and offline for quite a while now. And I'm really, what you guys do at Roast House and at First Avenue is really, really cool. And I wanted to get you on the show. And from your own words, tell us about Roast House.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I mean, we've always enjoyed our interactions with you, and it's just great working with people that have similar values and things that they want to accomplish. So it's always a blast getting to chat with you guys. But yeah, Roast House was founded in 2010. Deb, the owner, which hopefully I think you have a episode planned in the future with her. She'll be a very surly, energetic, crass episode, most definitely. But she started this company with essentially one vision, which was to do 100% organic coffee, sustainably sourced, and that all the mechanisms within the business would be centered around taking care of the planet, taking care of people, and really filling that need. And what we saw a lot of times in the industry was people had other focus points, branding. There's so many cool brands out there. Maybe a portion of their coffee would be organic and a larger portion would not be. And there was kind of like, too much diversity. And so Deb said, well, we're going to do the one thing, and we're going to do the one thing really well. And that was sourcing sustainably produced coffees. And so over the last 10 years, that's exactly what we've done for 10 years, no stops. So, and it's just been a great challenge to do that. There's a lot of dynamics that go into how to do that on a quality level, while also, on a financial level for a lot of producers, it can be pretty costly to be organic. So, what are we doing as roasters to become better partners to support them? And so that would fit into maybe the green buying portion. So the green coffee, the raw coffee that we import, and work with a number of different vendors, importers, and partners along those lines, to really create that high trust supply chain has been just a great journey. And there's so many awesome stories that we've been blessed with over the years too. So yeah, fast forward 10 years, here we are. We still rock on a 12 kilo Dietrich roaster, which does about 20-pound batches at a time. They're made just in Sandpoint, Idaho.
So how many hours a day is that roaster running?
So right now we're running at about, it's a solid 6 to 8 hour shift for a roaster. And you factor in about an hour of that is going to be your warm up, and an hour is going to be your cool down. So, effectively you're producing coffee for, 5 hours a day. You could do longer. I have done longer. I think the longest roasting day I've clocked myself was I started at 5 a.m. and I finished at 10 p.m. That was a doozy of a day, I tell you what.
Yeah, that's a long time to be standing around a coffee roaster and making sure that everything is going well.
Yes, exactly. And so you'd have to break down midday and clean the roaster out and then warm it back up and then do some more batches and then cool it back down and clean it out. And yeah, it was fun. It was a good way to learn how to manage production shifts so that you don't have to do that.
So speaking of coffee roasting, how did you get started working with Roast House? Because when we've talked before, you're not from Spokane originally, and you moved out to Washington State. But how did you get started? What brought you into coffee?
Yeah, so I was doing my undergrad in Chicago, and I had met a gentleman. Well, I say gentleman now. He was 13 at the time. Let's just be clear. He was a professional, though, you know. Anyways, they own this shop. Him and his parents own this shop in Rochester, Michigan, called the Dessert Oasis, and they're still ticking today. They've got, I think, 3 beautiful shops in Detroit and Royal Oak and a couple other places in Michigan. And so I met him, Nathan, and he showed me his little roasting operation. Again, mind you, this whole time he's 13.
Okay, so 13-year-old coffee roaster.
Right. And he's explaining to me the science behind, you know, caramelization and the Maillard reaction and all this stuff. And he shows me his little roasting room and the green coffee bags that he had and this whole thing. And I was just like, this is awesome. And so I go, well, how do I do it at home? I don't know why that was my first thought, but I asked the question. He goes, oh, you go on this website, you can buy a roaster, you can buy some green coffee from me, and you'll be off to the races. So then before I know it, you know, we're going back and forth and he's teaching me how to roast. So I fast forward, I'm in Chicago. I start roasting to save money for myself for college. I figure, well, if I can fuel my caffeine addiction, then I don't have to pay retail for it. I can just pay wholesale, do the labor myself. So I got this whole setup. Well, what happens when you start roasting coffee on a dorm floor with 50 other dudes?
You've got 50 other people asking you for coffee.
Exactly. So I am an entrepreneur through and through. So my little foot starts ticking and I'm thinking, going, oh, you know, I might have a little side business here. So, you know, of course it developed into something. So what I would do is I'd go to school in the morning. I'd work my day job. I'd come home at night. I'd roast till 1, 2 in the morning, do my homework while I'm roasting. And then in the morning, I'd load up my backpack with roasted coffee bags and I'd go distribute like a drug dealer, you know?
A drug dealer that smelled good.
Yeah,
like freshly roasted coffee in your, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I could use my own product without getting judged for it, you know?
Right.
So then I moved out to Spokane to follow a girl, and we wound up getting married, and we just celebrated our 7th anniversary this past week. And
congratulations.
And she was out here, and she introduced me to Deb, who owns Roast House. And so I asked Deb, hey, can I get a job here? And I was 19 at the time. And she looked at me and asked me where my mother was.
I have described you to people. I said I asked this guy at the Roast House party, and I really wanted to ask him for his driver's license. So I described you that way too. So. Yes,
yeah, it's perfect. So,
oh my god,
yeah, I just turned 13. I'm really excited to be in my teens now.
Well, the fact that your coffee mentor was 13.
Yeah, exactly.
I find that to be hysterical in this story.
It is, yes. And, you know, and now he runs 3 companies. He runs operations for all of them, all the branding, all that, and he does a stellar job. So it's just funny. It's really funny to me. So, but yeah, I moved out here and Deb didn't really have a position for me. And so she said, well, you know, if you want to apprentice, you can. And the head roaster at the time, Dave, said, yeah, sure, you can come hang out with me on Saturdays. So I would hang out with him, and then I just made a list. I remember early on, you know, even in high school, I remember someone telling me that the best thing you can do is find someone tenured in the position you want to be in, and then invest your dollars in getting to know that person. And so I took that to heart, and I thought, well, I'll make a list of all the coffee roasters I think are cool and, you know, doing interesting things in the industry. So sure enough, I made a list. I called a bunch of them. Some of them told me to F off. Some of them told me to take a flying leap in a rolling donut. And then a handful of them took me seriously and were willing to kind of take me under their wing and mentor me. And so Velton Ross, who owns Velton Roasting Company out in Everett, Washington, was a huge influence on me early on and is just a great human being. And then, Mark Michelson out of Onyx Coffee in Arkansas, was willing to take time and walk me through some things if I had questions. And so those relationships really were the blossoming of teaching me how to learn how to be a professional in the industry. And so then, fast forward now, Dave wound up getting out of the coffee industry. He passed off the reins to me, and Deb and I have been working together ever since.
Well, that's a very cool story. So good on you for being persistent, because so many of us give up. So one of the things that I thought was so how I found you. So how I found First Avenue was I was doing these blog posts, 100 cups of coffee in 100 days across Washington State as a way of me handling the grief of my father's passing, because my dad's passing. As for any of us, it's not particularly a fun thing to go through. But my dad and I had this lifelong, literally since I was like 12, we drank coffee together. It's just what we did. And my dad didn't really care what the coffee was. In other words, he could go to Denny's and he'd sit and drink coffee at Denny's all day long and be just perfectly happy. Good coffee was kind of wasted on him. I don't like drinking coffee at Denny's, and I like good coffee. So I started going around Washington State and going to all these coffee shops. And so First Avenue, somebody, Molly Lindquist, who I believe you know. Yeah. Molly had written an article for our website on, I think, the 10 best coffee shops in Spokane, and First Ave was there. And so I thought I had to go out and check this out for myself. So we drove over, and I walked in, and I literally, my jaw just kind of went, huh. And the coffee bar is amazing. The whole shop is, I wish it was in Wenatchee, because I'd have moved in and you'd have to kick me out. But I just, the shop is just this amazing coffee experience. And it's literally, you are in the top 3 of my coffee shop experiences in Washington State. And
thanks for saying that.
Oh, it's the truth. So one of the things that this coffee journey that I've been on in Explore Washington State is I'm getting out to see more of Washington State than I ever did in all my life. And it's breaking my preconceived notions. I didn't hold Spokane in particularly high regard. And this is coming from a guy who lived in Tacoma, so it's really kind of a weird thing. But I like going to Spokane. We go there for concerts now. Well, not right now because of what's going on. But,
I was about to say, what concerts are you going to? I want to go.
Yeah, we go. We've gone to half a dozen shows last year in Spokane. It's a really cool city, and each time we go there, I stop at either one of your places, Roast House or First Avenue, and I look forward to it. In fact, I look forward to the drive. So one of the things that I thought was really cool is the neon sign at First Avenue with the damn good coffee. I of course chuckled at that. I thought that was like, okay, I'm going to like this place. In fact, I've got no one can see me, but I'm drinking coffee out of that damn good coffee mug right now. But the F-bomb coffee, you're kind of, I'll call it your signature. Maybe you'll disagree with me. To me, that's the first thing I identified with you guys was the F-bomb coffee.
Yes.
And let's talk about that, because what's the story behind it? And then I want to ask you a follow-up question, but what's the backstory there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, this ties in with our vision of trying to support producers year to year. So it's very difficult to kind of lock down a relationship in coffee producing regions, or even a coffee producer in and of itself that can sustain year after year. Producers have up years and down years. It's an agricultural product. And so one of the big problems that I saw was, as a green buyer in the industry, was a lot of cherry picking, so to speak, and no pun intended, as coffee is a cherry, but was that, if, hey, one producer from Peru couldn't get you the volume that you needed, you would jump ship and go to a producer down the street. Producer, farmer are kind of synonymous, I guess, at that point. And I thought, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because it's not like these producers can just hop on Amazon or have a web platform and just, start selling their coffee. Agency and access to the marketplace is one of the biggest problems and challenges for coffee producers. Considering a lot of these places are, I remember chatting with a producer in Guatemala years ago, and I said, so what's the name of your farm? He goes, what do you mean, what's the name of my farm? Well, like, what do you call it? He's like, I don't know. My grandpa farmed this land. My dad farmed this land. I'm farming the land. It's our farm. I was like, oh. And I was so used to having coffee farms that had a name or a brand, at being in North America, of course, that I go, I never thought of that. So he goes, I don't know. We have a lemon tree in our house, so we'll call it El Limonar. I was like, that's a great story. But anyway, so we one day we had this producer group in Mexico that we're actually coming up on our 11th harvest with them, which is an amazing feat to work with the same producer for 11 straight years. And I was roasting the first batch of the fresh crop harvest, and man, it smelled like brownies. Oh my God. It was incredible. And it came out of the roaster, and Deb comes out, and are we allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, sure. We'll let you.
Okay. Well, she was cussing a lot. You're dropping the F-bomb. We'll leave it at that. She thought it was so effing good, right? Those were her words.
Okay.
And she got so excited. So then the next day, a friend of ours that was working for us at the time, actually, Bill Bloom, he came in and wrote, had this little illustration. It was like a bomb, and the wick was in the shape of an F, and it said F-bomb coffee on it. And we thought, gosh, that sure is clever. That's kind of cute. Maybe we should name it that. So then we did a couple tastings where we would take coffee that we would call Mexico Mahamut, and then we would take that same coffee and label it F-bomb. And we did some market research to see what people's responses were. Even though it was the same coffee, people wanted the F-bomb more than they liked the Mexico, even though it was exactly the same.
Okay.
And so it was the first realization where we recognized that, branding helps. Helps you move coffee. So I figure if I can move 100 bags of it as Mexico Mahamut, or I can move 300 bags by calling it F-bomb, I should probably call it F-bomb. So then now I can support that producer on a higher level. And so thus F-bomb was born, and then it has evolved since then into our single serve brand. So we rolled out cold brew. We do it in 12-ounce bottles, the F-bomb cold brew. We also put it on kegs and serve it on nitro at the cafe at First Avenue and at Roast House. And then we do the steeped coffee packs, which are like single serve, all compostable. You just need a mug of hot water, dip the bag in there, and you're good to go. So then F-bomb kind of became, like you said, our signature calling card, if you will.
Yes, and so actually, you just answered what my follow-up question was: is the brand extensions that you guys have done with it, the cold brew, the bottled, and the steeped bags. I think a lot of people, if you say bagged coffee, they're going to have a funny look on their face, like what? Can you explain the benefit and why you guys are doing these individual serve steeped bags?
Yeah, this is great. This is something that we're always kind of keeping at the forefront of our mind. Single serve coffee has been around for a very, very, very long time. Multi-billion-dollar industry. When you look at instant coffee and Starbucks Via and your, what's that one with the yellow label? Oh God, it's been around forever. Cafe Boosly or
that's the Cuban coffee, right? Isn't
it
Cuban?
Yeah, exactly. So right, this whole idea of just single serve options. And so there were a couple companies that had come online that were doing specialty instant coffee. So they're taking the technology of instant coffee, but instead of using really low quality coffee, they were using really high quality coffee. And they were actually fantastic. They're really delicious. The downside was they're pretty expensive. The technology hadn't evolved enough to make it a cost-effective item. So like you said, you say instant specialty coffee, people's faces kind of cringe. And then you say, oh, also, by the way, it's $4. It's like their faces are like now just wrinkled up. Like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
So while it was a great solution, it just wasn't a perfect fit. And then Steeped came along, which is a company out of Santa Cruz. They're a B Corp certified, amazing company. Everything about their packaging is compostable, breaks down. To the point that you can't even hold the product for over a certain period of time because the packaging will literally start to disintegrate. It's that compostable. And they put some really cool things in place, like heat sealing instead of using glue. And then, instead of using staples on the little like tea sachet bag, they use, again, the same heat sealing method. And so what that allows us to do is now we have no adhesives. Everything's just screen printed on there, and it fully composts. And so we thought, hey, that aligns with our values to be sustainable. And it also allows us to provide a single serve option for people. So we rolled that out last year with the F-bomb, and it was great. We did a whole discovery phase with Steeped to try and find, we had to change the roast profile a little bit so that it would translate to a new brewing method better, so that the experience across F-bomb cold brew and F-bomb in a hot brew and F-bomb as a steeped pack would be somewhat similar anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So we partnered with them on that. And then we just launched a limited release lineup with them as well. That'll have Ethiopia coffee in it. That's really, really good. So we just rolled that out like earlier this week.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to come in and grab some of that and give it a shot. Cause my wife picked up, I think she ordered 50 bags of it for me for Christmas. And it was pretty funny. I was like, what's this there's this box, but it's really light. What is it? It's pretty cool. I take it with me when I'm going places where I know I'm not going to have, good coffee.
Yeah. They're great stocking stuffers.
Yeah. I mean, it's really tasty. It's a very good cup of coffee. So congratulations for you guys for, finding that and being patient enough to bring it to market and share it with your audience. So what else have you guys been doing? Let's go here. So at the time of this recording, we're all still kind of, I think, scratching our heads about COVID and whether we can go out in public or we can't and all those things. But it's getting better. But for a little while, it was kind of like we were all in our homes and weren't going out. But you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys kind of launched these higher end cold coffees, single, 12-ounce bottles. Was that new, and was that in response to the market shift, or had that been on the works for a while and you just had time to execute, or am I completely wrong and you've had them forever and I just didn't know?
No, yeah. So it was a new product, and it also was something that was in the cooker for a long time. And again, like many things in coffee, there is a large market that larger companies do things on a scalable level that maybe isn't quality oriented, but they serve a need in the marketplace. And so as smaller independent companies, you kind of look at that and weigh the options of what you can wade in on, the risk analysis and all that. And so for the single serve bottles, we really wanted something that was crazy high quality. And so we just never really found a recipe that we liked or that we thought tasted good or translated or had any shelf stability. All those kind of hurdles came into play. And then, of course, our COVID culture hit, and we thought, okay, how do we adapt? How do we serve our marketplace now? I know many people would argue that coffee is essential.
Absolutely.
And we think so too. But the fact of the matter is that if economics really hit hard and people weren't able to afford coffee, they start chewing on roots again to get caffeine fixes. I'm not sure. So we try and always keep that in mind that we need to adapt and serve a marketplace, because at any given time, your product could not be needed anymore, or out of reach for people. And so what we looked at is what did the market need and what did the community need, more importantly, during a time where they're all, locked up in their houses, they're having to work from home, moms are working double duty, dads are trying to orchestrate, families are together more than they ever have been with all the challenges that can be faced there. I've worked with my wife for the last decade, so I didn't necessarily have those problems. We were used to it, but it was a big challenge for people. And so what we wanted to do is bring some joy, some smiles, have a good time, be able to engage and have something that wasn't COVID related on their social media feeds. And so we just decided to kind of adapt to what was going on. And what we thought is that people didn't need another COVID response post. They needed, something to laugh at, something to have a good time with. And so we started doing, curbside. People would drive their cars up and we'd chuck bags of coffee through their car windows. And we would, kept everything super clean. We did free shipping because people were staying home and staying safe. So our free shipping code is safety is sexy, and it is actually still available online. If you get a pound of coffee, we'll cover the shipping costs. And then we thought, well, people aren't enjoying the space, the cafes, the tasting room. So how can we bring that experience to them? And First Avenue and Roast House has made our own chocolate ganache since the beginning. And for our mochas and things like that, it kind of became our signature. And we thought, well, hey, why don't we throw that in a bottle so that people can just enjoy it at their house? And so we pulled together we're actually bottling right now out there for this week's production. We bottle on Fridays. And so Ryan and myself and Kyle, we're the three roasters here. We workshopped different recipes and ratios and figured out what would work best, and then figured out a scalable system. And we just started jamming out cases and cases and cases of bottled mochas, and to the point where we're selling out every week now. And I'm seeing people putting them in their ice cream maker, throwing them in cocktails, putting vodka, bourbon in them, Kahlua. We've seen all sorts of really creative ways of enjoying these. And so they became just a fun way to engage people in our culture, but from the safety of their own home. And that was just a ton of fun to see, right? It's always great to see posts of people cracking open a cold one of your bottled stuff and sipping on it in their PJs.
That's very cool. So what's next? Do you guys have, I don't know if you didn't know I was going to ask you this question. So here's that bus backing over you right now. What's next? You guys got something else up your sleeves coming up, or is it just kind of mastering and continuing to perfect everything that you're doing right now?
I'm not telling.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we've always got ideas in the cooker, man. That's the fun part about coffee, is that coffee is coffee, right? For some people, I've said this for years, that coffee can be as simple or as complicated as you want to make it.
Sure.
And that's the beauty of it. So if you want to get nerdy on the farm details and the variety and the processing method and what month it was harvested and how many hours of sunlight the coffee plants got, and on westward, east, whatever, we can go there. And then if people just want the I like it, I don't like it simplicity of coffee, we can do that too. And so we're always trying to serve that. So yeah, we're about to launch right now. Fresh crop Ethiopias are coming in from Ethiopia. And so this is a great time. The summer is fantastic for Ethiopian coffees because they're bright, they're lively, they're super refreshing. Some of them can even be like summer teas or sun teas or something like that. They're just a really fun experience. So we'll be rolling out our second year with a group in Ethiopia here probably in the next week. Okay. So that's a new product. The Ethiopia steeped packs are brand new this week. So those will be rolling out, and we're actually going to start rotating those. So as soon as we sell out, there won't be any more Ethiopia Hidi. And so that coffee will switch up through the seasons. So we'll always be able to bring some new offering for the steeped product line. Let's see, what else do we have in this? We have a draft project in the works. I'll say that for the cafe and for up at Roast House that I'm very, very excited about. It's something I've been having the idea for a couple of years now, so I'm excited to bring it to fruition.
All right. So the premise of Explore Washington State is, we want to get out there and celebrate and showcase the things that are a little bit off the beaten path, and people and businesses that are doing cool things like Rust House, and good hikes to go on, places to go that everybody knows about the space needle. Everybody knows about Mount Rainier. So I ask everybody pretty much the same series of questions. So when you're going out in Spokane, where's a great place that you like to go to lunch?
Ooh, that is a great question. I am a sucker for Brunchinette. They are on Monroe and Broadway by the courthouse. And I have always had great experiences with them. And she had so they do breakfast, brunch food, and they were having some challenges like, how do you transport eggs? That's kind of a weird takeout food to do. And so when they finally figured it out and started doing takeout, we went there and it was amazing. So just the attention to detail, it's really quality food. They have a wide array of goodies on the menu, and shameless plug, they serve our coffee.
Oh, all right.
So you can get a good cup of coffee and you can get brunch.
Perfect. So you've got friends coming in from out of state, and they're going to be in town for a day, and you're going to hang out with them for the better part of a day. Where are you going to take them? What are you going to show them in the Spokane area?
Okay, for sure we're going on a hike.
Okay.
So I love the Liberty Lake Loop. I think that's a gorgeous loop. It's about a 9 mile altogether. Not too technically difficult. That's great. Mount Spokane is obviously beautiful. You can do a hike up there. So that's how it started our day. About 9-10 a.m. I'd be getting up. I'd be going on a beautiful hike, cool weather, see some waterfalls, see some scenic outlooks. And then we'd come back and we'd have lunch at Brunchinette. Obviously, I already said that. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Okay. And one of my favorite things in Spokane to do is the Centennial Trail. I just love going for walks. There's so many great directions you can take it and go. It'll take you to different spots. So we would go for an afternoon ice cream for sure at the Scoop in Kendall Yards, or we'd go up to the South Hill. Their OG location is awesome as well.
Okay.
And then we'd probably do. I'm a pretty big home cook. I love cooking at home, so I'd probably cook them a meal or something. We might go out for dinner, but I like cooking for people if I'm hosting.
Okay.
And then we'd for sure hit some breweries in town. We'd either go to Nectar. I love Nectar because they have a bunch of local breweries on tap, and they kind of are a bottle shop here in Spokane. Or we do cocktails at like Hogwash.
All right. So you started this off, and I was thinking a 9 mile hike. I'm like, I'm not looking forward to that. But if I'm going to go and eat at Brunchinette, I'm going to go have ice cream and then go drink. I need to burn those calories. So I guess I'd have to go along with you. Sounds like a really fun day.
I'm strategic.
Yes,
I thought that one through. The 9 mile hike wasn't for exercise. It was to justify the rest of the day.
To justify, there you go. But you didn't start the day off with coffee, though. That's the thing you left off. You didn't say, well, we'd have coffee to start.
It's true. Oh my God, how embarrassing.
Yeah, I gave you a softball there. You could have hit
I know, and I flubbed it.
Oh, well. So to wrap this up, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you guys, because you've got 2 locations. And if you got anything else you want to share, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so First Avenue Coffee is our cafe in downtown Spokane on First and Monroe. It's gorgeous space, 40-foot espresso bar. Balcony upstairs is probably one of my favorite spots to be. Just quiet, secluded, nice soft seating. And we have a big 15-foot walnut community table that's gorgeous. Obviously, safely proportioned seatings for our current climate. So that's First Avenue. We do online ordering on the Joe app, and we have a website too for that, firstavenuecoffee.com. And then at Roast House, we're up north a little bit off Division and Foothills. We can be found roasthousecoffee.com. Again, we're doing free shipping. So safety is sexy is the code. And then we're also doing free shipping for subscriptions now through the summer, which is kind of a cool deal to get in on, because we probably won't keep that around forever. And the code for that's fuel for the summer. So you get 2 pounds of coffee. You get to pick what coffee. You get to pick how frequent you want it. So if you only want it once a month or you want it every other week, you get to pick all that. We also have a curated option. So we get to pick. So you get something new every time. That one's fun. And we're notorious for throwing extra goodies in packages. So that's been a lot of fun as well. So you can go on roasthousecoffee.com and find us there. So yeah, other than that, I really appreciate you taking the time to let us share what we got going on. It's been a lot of fun building a business during the COVID culture, and we're just going to keep plugging away and working like we always have.
No, you guys are outstanding, and I encourage anybody in Spokane to go check you guys out. It's worth the drive from anywhere in Washington. Really, that coffee bar at First Avenue, which we haven't even gone into. We'll maybe let Deb talk about that when we do that one. But seriously, from a coffee geek standpoint, that coffee bar is just great. It's over the top, and everybody that I've ever dealt with in your company on any level has just been nothing but pleasant, polite, professional, and with a great sense of humor. So it's like, I can't say enough good things about everybody. So thank you for being on our episode. Look forward to talking to you soon. And thanks. Take care.
Sounds great, Scott. Have a great one.
All right.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.